Well, the leaves may not have changed yet, but autumn is in the air. The coolest evening so far at Citi Field. 10 games to go in the regular season as the Mets try and play for pride, play for some numbers, and play for next year's contract. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Pittsburgh Pirates. A pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. I'm Gary Cohen. Ron Darling joins me in just a moment as the Mets open a 4-game series with the Pittsburgh Pirates, their final home series of the season. For the Pirates, it looked like this was going to be the year. 1992 was the last time the Pirates were in the postseason, the last time they had a winning record, and this year they have gone from an almost lock for a postseason berth, certainly a lock for a winning record, to something very different.
Well, when you think about the Pittsburgh Pirates, think way back to the battery mate of Doug Drabeck and Mike LaValliere and Barry Bonds in the outfield and Andy Van Slyke. Well, that's the last time that they had a winning team. And you're right, Gary. You just thought it was going to be a lock. They were having the same season, really, that the Baltimore Orioles are having in the American League East. What happened? Well, really, everything came crashing down. The starting pitching, the hitting, the relief pitching, everything. And really, the most important thing for Clint Hurdle's team was that they were 35-22 up to August 8 in 1- and 2-run margins. They've only won 2 games like that since then.
Now they have a chance to be the first team that's ever been 16 games over 500 that late in the season to ever finish with a losing record. For the Mets, Henry Mejia will make his second start of the season. The first one didn't go well in Milwaukee.
Well, what I want to see from Henry tonight is you want to see aggressive strike throwing. You want him to throw a breaking ball when he's behind in the count occasionally. And we hear about swing and miss all the time. I would like to see Henry have swing and contact. Balls in play early that'll give him some easy outs and keep that pitch count down.
The Pirates will also have one of their prospects going. Kyle McPherson makes his second big league start.
Well, this is a young man who was their pitcher of the minor leagues last year when he's 12-6. He started the year this year with some shoulder inflammation. He didn't have a winning record in AAA, but they like his makeup and his ability to throw strikes.
So it's the Mets and Pirates opening a 4-game series. Terry Collins hoping his team can finish the year on a high note. All the action coming your way tonight right here on SNY. Engineering, by Astoria Federal Savings, by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. And by Honda. Visit your Honda dealer right now for great deals. Only a Honda is a Honda. Get to Citi Field for 50% off tickets with your Pepsi can. On game day, exchange the can at the Citi Field box office to save 50% off 2 tickets. Visit Mets.com/PepsiCan for more details. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule, presented by Astoria Federal Savings. You can listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN, and that's it. 9 more games to go after today, 3 with the Pirates, including R.A. Dickey's final start at Citi Field this year on Thursday. Then the Mets go to Atlanta and Miami to close out the season. Henry Mejia makes his way in from the bullpen for his second start of the year. Mets and Pirates. First pitch coming up from Citi Field. .137 and .431 at Citi Field to try the flamethrower tenders and the Chipotle chicken sandwich. Cholula hot sauce, the flavorful hot sauce with the iconic wooden cap. Henry Mejia set to take the field, preparatory to his second start of the year. Here's the Pirates starting lineup. They've got their MVP candidate Andrew McCutchen hitting third in the order. He's had himself a great year. The Pirates, when the Mets first saw them early this season, were the worst offensive team in the league. Then for 2 months, they were one of the best. Now they've tailed off the last month and a half as they head down the stretch.
Well, it's interesting, as Henry Mejia came off the bench, he looked towards the sky for some divine intervention. And for Henry, I think this is a key start for him to open up some eyes. You see his stats. Well, you know, not a lot to go on so far. The stats brought to you by Caesars Atlantic City. But I think this is a big start for Henry, just in the case of, can he calm his nerves? Can he go after the hitters? And can he show this Mets team and his manager that he can get big league hitters out? And defensively behind Mejia, the Lexus Mets defense, Duda in left. Hairston playing in center field with Lewis pushed over to right. 9 start in center field this season. Right to Hada, Murphy, Davis. That's your infield most days. And Josh Tolley's getting the start behind the plate.
Mejia came up 2 years ago, worked primarily out of the bullpen, but made 3 starts late in the season. Wants to be a starter, was kind of jerked back and forth this year between starting and relieving because the Mets at one point had a need in the bullpen, so they tried to prep him for that. That didn't go well, so he went back into the rotation in Buffalo.
And he certainly pitched better in the minor leagues as a starter as opposed to a reliever. But the best way to prove that you belong in the starting rotation is have a good outing.
Well, Henry's had 2 relief outings in addition to his start since being called up when the rosters expanded in September. He's still just 22 years old, which it's easy to forget. Missed all of last year with Tommy John surgery after beginning the year in the minor leagues as a starter and then hurting that elbow.
I think a lot of people forget to realize that when you miss an entire year to Tommy John, you're also missing a year of development. So he might be 22, but he missed an entire year of getting better.
Alex Presley will lead things off for the Pirates. It's interesting, 2 years ago when Mejia made his last appearance for the Mets, it was against Pittsburgh. And then he suffered a bit of a shoulder problem and they shut him down for the year. So the Pirates, at least a few of them, have seen him before. Alex Presley hitting at .237, just a .283 on base percentage, a guy who can run but has trouble getting on base. The Pirates for the season are 10th in the National League in runs scored, but it's been such an up and down year for them, it's a little hard to judge. But here ready to go. Well, that low angle there. Here's the first pitch of the night. The fastball misses wide for ball 1. In Milwaukee, in his first start, he was constantly behind on the count 2-0. And one of the keys for him tonight is to throw more strikes, get ahead in the count. Quickly behind on Presley, 2-0.
I honestly thought he said many times that, I was up in 2010, not nervous as Josh Harrison on deck, but to me, he looked very nervous in Milwaukee pitching.
Well, I think he knows that he's got limited opportunities here in September to prove that he can be a starting pitcher, and that doesn't mean he won't get another chance come spring training, but Mets might have a crowd of starting pitchers in spring training, and if Henry wants to be in the big leagues next year, if he doesn't show well this September, then maybe his only chance will be in the bullpen. 2-2 to Presley. What's interesting is that Mejia had extensive experience as a relief pitcher in Buffalo this year and is being used as a starter here. On the other hand, Jeurys Familia, who was exclusively a starter in the minor leagues, has found a home in the Mets bullpen. 2-2 to Presley with Josh Harrison on deck, and that fastball misses, a full count. This is a very aggressive Pirates team. They're second to last in the National League in drawing walks. They also have struck out the second most times under Clint Hurdle. And the 3-2 is fouled away.
Well, nice at bat so far by Alex Presley. Already seen 6 pitches.
And you see the overall numbers for the Pirates offense. But again, the Mets were there the 3rd week in May, and at that point the Pirates not only had the lowest on base percentage in the league, but it was historically low. Slap to shortstop. Charging is Tejada. Got a fast runner to contend with, and he gets Presley by half a stride for the first down.
Boy, good play by Ruben. It takes a little more time than he could because Presley can fly down that first base line.
So the first base coach, Luis Silverio, trying to do some umpiring.
Presley has 7 triples this season and even an inside the park home run. So you see what kind of speed he has.
That's his best asset. Now Josh Harrison, who, if you'll remember in the series in Pittsburgh back in May, had a terrific series against the Mets. Harrison has been playing very little lately, but he played yesterday and had a 4-hit game as Mejia throws a curveball that misses inside.
Presley, after sprinting down the first base line, now giving the scouting report to other hitters, saying, hey, he's throwing hard, or there's a lot of movement on his pitch, whatever he saw. See that stance by Mejia, little 45-degree angle.
And the curveball sits high to Harrison, 2-1. One of the pieces of the game plan tonight for Henry was to throw his off-speed pitches, his curveball and his changeup more, because when you throw that hard, sometimes you can fall in love with that fastball.
And also, I think when you're missing the strike zone like he was in Milwaukee, you tend to go, well, I got to keep pumping fastballs till I find it. Sometimes a breaking ball will get you back over the plate.
Over the mound, tough play for Tejada, and a quick toss, not in time to get the speedy Harrison, who has an infield hit.
Well, Harrison's like a running back, the way he runs down that line and beats it quite easily. Only way to make that play is if the pitcher could have jumped high enough to get it.
So he has generated 2 slow ground balls. That's 1 for 2 in throwing them out. And now Andrew McCutchen, who has had himself a tremendous year. 2nd in the National League in batting, 6th in home runs, 10th in RBIs, leads the league in on-base percentage, leads the league in runs scored. And at 25 years old has emerged as a superstar in the National League. And a fastball call strike. Officially, he is 2nd in average. Of course, Melky Cabrera has deemed himself, and the league has agreed to deem him ineligible for the batting title. But that doesn't negate the fact that Melky still leads the league in batting. And the funny thing about that is there is no actual batting title. You don't get a trophy or anything for it. It's just, it means that you finish 1st in batting.
Sometimes you get extra zeros on your paycheck.
Well, that helps. In Melky's case, he'll be a free agent at the end of the year. It'll be interesting to see what he gets for that.
He might get less zeros, right? The thing about McCutchen, not since Dave Parker's 1978 season when he won the MVP as a Pirate, hit over 330 with 30 home runs, and he has been hot of late.
He struggled a little bit as the Pirates made their downturn in August and early September. But McCutchen has come back now over the last few weeks. 1-2 now. And he is certainly in the conversation for National League MVP honors. Garrett Jones has had a nice season waiting on deck.
He would have been more of a talk of the MVP if the Cinderella story had come true for the Pirates. They would have stayed in it.
And that fastball misses inside. I think most observers feel right now that the leading candidate for MVP is Buster Posey.
And for many reasons. San Francisco's in, but also what he's done in the second half. You always can appreciate a player if they turn their game up to another level when the games are the most important.
And I think also when you play a position like catcher, if you can produce the kind of offensive numbers Posey has and be the primary offensive player on your team, on a good team, that counts for a lot. See Posey right behind McCutchen as they battle for what will be the batting title.
2 catchers there with Molina also.
And Carlos Ruiz, if he had enough at bats, would be right up there too. There's A.J. Burnett, who pitched at Gem last night. Harrison runs, McCutchen strikes out, and Harrison steals the base. 6th stolen base of the year for Harrison as McCutchen strikes out for the 2nd out.
Well, Harrison's got some speed. Big swing there by McCutchen. Totally with a good throw, but a better jump by Harrison. You know, the one thing Murph's got to do is stay on the bag. See how he comes way in front of the bag? You have to reach back. Ball travels quicker than your arm. Stay back at the bag and catch it at the runner.
Murph gets a little impatient.
Yeah, he does. See, he's in front. Watch how far he's got to reach back. Now, he probably wasn't going to get the runner anyways, but if you stay near the bag, you can just drop that tag down.
Here's Garrett Jones, the power hitting left-hand batter. Jones with 24 home runs on the year, 78 driven in. He has struggled lately, but this has been his best major league season at age 31. And Jones takes a fastball for a strike, 1-1. When you watch that ball coming at you from that low angle behind home plate, it looks a lot faster than it does when you watch from the center field camera.
Yeah, or up here, right? I mean, the split second, you have to decide whether to swing or not.
It was a good changeup by Mejia. One of the things we remarked on when we first saw Henry in the spring of 2010, that he had more than just a fastball to work with, although certainly the explosiveness of his fastball was what you first noticed.
I talked about Bobby Valentine once about hitting. He said there's 3 parts of hitting. He says, 1, when the pitcher lets go of the ball, you're the hitter. You're thinking, is it going to hit me? Okay, once you clear that, the second one, is it a fastball or a breaking ball? And third, deciding where you're going to place the bat in your swing to anticipate where the ball's going to be.
Do all that 4/10 of a second.
There you go.
Over to third goes Harrison as the wild pitch skipping on Tolley.
Well, when you call for a fastball, sometimes it'll surprise the catcher because you just expect him to take that back. That looks like that was a changeup. I'm wrong. So when the pitcher throws a changeup, Josh should be in more anticipation that that ball could end up in the dirt and kind of smother it by getting to his knees.
He has run deep counts to each of the first 4 batters. 2-2 now to Jones with 2 out, and that curveball sails on him, and it's 3-2. So in 4 batters, Henry's gone to 3 full counts already. Neil Walker, the switch hitting second baseman, would be next. Harrison at third and 2 out. And Jones swings and misses at the fastball, and the inning is over. Mejia with back-to-back strikeouts of the 3 and 4 hitters to get him through. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the first with no score. Ruben Tejada, who had the game-winning hit yesterday, down to the 7th hole for this game. 24-year-old Kyle McPherson on the mound for the Pirates tonight.
Well, he took the place of James McDonald, who was lights out in the first half and then struggled. From Mobile, Alabama, the right-hander just got great control of all 4 pitches. Those were the Toyota numbers that you saw there.
So here's Lewis, who was intentionally walked in the 9th inning last night so the Marlins could get to Ruben Tejada, who delivered the game-winning hit. Lewis takes a strike from McPherson. Fred 2 for 13 since being called up. Daniel Murphy on deck, then David Wright. Mets took 2 out of 3 from the Pirates when they played them back in May at PNC Park. First game of that series, Johan Santana started, was cruising and got ambushed by the Pirate catcher Mike McHenry, and then the Mets cruised the next 2 days behind Dickey and Neese. At that time, the Pirates were struggling to score at all. .94 on the fastball from McPherson, 1-2.
You gotta love this young man's motion, just nice and slow, free and easy, and the ball kind of just leaps out of his hand. What's interesting is that he's throwing probably 1 or 2, 3 miles an hour slower than Mejia, but you see just a very simple motion, eyes never taken off the target. That knee clicks with the glove, and that late drive.
McPherson made his first start last Wednesday against Milwaukee, allowed 2 runs in 4 1/3. Lewis lines one to left, and on comes Presley to grab it for the first down.
There's, of course, Light Pirates defense. Presley, McCutchen, and Jones in right field. Alvarez, the local product, at third base. Harrison, Walker, and Sanchez. Gabby Sanchez came over from the Marlins, and Michael McHenry doing the catching.
There's Daniel Murphy at .292 for the year. 38 doubles, ties his career high.
I don't know if the Mets are going to be able to take advantage of this, but the catching duo of McHenry and Barajas et al. Have only thrown out 12 of 125 would-be base stealers this year.
And then the question becomes how much of that is on the catchers and how much of that is on the pitching staff. Pirates for the first half of the year had tremendous starting pitching led by A.J. Burnett, who yesterday won his 16th game. In fact, A.J. is the first Pirate in 21 years to win as many as 16 games. But McDonald was great early in the season.
When you watch McPherson and his landing, see that front leg? It's pointed to the right-hand batter's box, almost at a 45-degree angle, throws across his body. That'll give you a little deception, and why, when we have that camera behind the plate, almost looks like he throws a little harder than Mejia.
Off-speed pitch ripped into right center for a base hit. Murphy takes a wide turn and holds up as Jones gets it in, and the Mets have a one-out base runner. 157th hit of the year for Daniel Murphy.
See that grip? He's about 3/4 when he throws, and this changeup just up in the strike zone. You know, when you throw a changeup to a batter who's not faced you or faced you a lot, it's hard to really get them on that change of pace. Got to establish the fastball a little more.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now David Wright, who hit his 19th home run of the year yesterday. David has gotten to 20 home runs 5 times in his career. 40 doubles puts him 3rd in the league. David now just 3 hits shy of Ed Kranepool's franchise record for base hits. He's at 1,415. Yesterday, David hit a 2-run homer on the first pitch he saw from Ricky Nolasco. See if he tries to ambush McPherson, a guy who hasn't seen before. A little different with Nolasco, who he's faced more than anybody else. And a curveball to start him off, 0-1.
Well, I heard, I was not here, that there was a pretty good wind blowing in from left center field, and David just hit a bullet out of there. Nolasco's seen that before.
6-time right to take it Nolasco deep, more than he's homered against anybody else. One out and 1 on, and the fastball, a strike, 0-2. Mike Davis waiting on deck. Kyle McPherson, a 14th round draft pick by the Pirates in 07. What's interesting about him is that he really didn't pitch much until he became a professional. And that curveball misses. He was mostly an infielder at the University of Mobile. He pitched in only 14 games in his college career, and when he did, he had a 6.07 ERA. So he was drafted on spec more than anything else.
He's all right now, though. Ray Searage got him, pitching coach for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I mean, for a guy who's really only been pitching for 5 years, he looks pretty well schooled.
Yeah, very polished.
1-2, and David hits one in the air to right center field. McCutchen easing over. And puts it away for the second out. David with that uppercut, flying one out to right center, 2 out.
This is really our first kind of cool night, isn't it, here? And I don't think the ball's going to go anywhere tonight unless you absolutely crush it, David. Just a little under that fastball away.
And Murph takes off for second, and he's safe with McPherson just wandering around. And the Pirate infielder's not paying attention. Murphy steals a base.
Well, I think McPherson had it. As he's walking around, you can see Murph. He's looking at the shortstop. With the back turn, that's his key. And Harrison, by the time he gets there, a little too late. McPherson was waiting for Harrison to get there. See, he notices early. He's waiting. Doesn't have anyone. Finally throws it. And if he had thrown it on the bag, then Murph might have been out anyway.
It's the second time on this homestand that Murph has tried that. When he tried it against the Marlins on Friday, time had been called and he had to go back. So he's in scoring position as the curveball's in for a strike to Ike Davis. Ike at 224, 28 home runs. So Murphy picks up his 9th stolen base of the year in unconventional fashion. I told you he's very impatient.
You're right. So maybe it isn't the Pittsburgh Pirate catcher's fault.
Saying it's the shortstop's fault?
That's right.
Harrison hasn't played a lot of shortstop for the Pirates. Clint Barmas is their regular shortstop. One and one to Davis with Murphy at second and 2 out. And Ike fouls off that changeup, and it's 1 and 2. So McPherson throwing a lot of off-speed stuff in this first inning.
You know what you see from that motion, though, from that great shot, is that all of his pitches so far came out of the same spot. You were talking about him being polished. That's outstanding for a young pitcher. No giving away of the changeup or curveball.
Interesting to note on Davis, for as good a second half as he's had, and as nice as his numbers look now, the early part of the game has not treated him well. He's hitting 143 in the first inning. Need to change that pregame prep. And that curveball bends in for a strike called to get Davis looking for the 3rd out. Mets strand a runner at second. No score after 1. Walker's been plagued by back issues over the last few weeks. He's been in and out of the Pirates lineup, out yesterday, in today. hitting a .277 for the year. Switch hitter who's far better from the left side than the right side. Walker, first round pick by the Pirates in 04. In fact, he was the 11th overall pick in 04. McCutchen was the 11th overall pick in 05.
Wow. Pretty good number for them.
It's a lucky number for the Pirates scouting department. And Walker takes it wide for ball one. Of course, Walker's a hometown kid from Pittsburgh, and he is clearly the most popular player on that team, despite the fact that he plays with one of the best players in the league in McCutchen.
He's a real offensive player. Switch hitter. See Gabby Sanchez collecting that foul ball. And at times, boy, he is pretty potent with that bat, but very streaky.
It's interesting how expectations change so quickly. The Pirates got off to a pretty good start last year, faded in the second half, and they got off to a great first 4 months this year. They were, as we showed you in the open, in the second wild card spot as recently as the second week in August. And so that raised a level of expectation that had not been there in Pittsburgh for many years. And as a consequence, there's been a lot of talk about whether heads are going to roll in the Pirate front office for the way things have gone these last 6-7 weeks. 12-30 since that great start.
The Mets are a little hip to that this season, aren't they?
Well, you look at the last 4 seasons, as a matter of fact, at all the major league teams and how they fared over the second half of the season. The Pirates have the worst second half record the last 4 years. The Mets have the second worst. So it's been kind of a pattern with both these clubs to play much better in the first half than the second. Another full count for Mejia. That's 4 of the first 5 batters. And I don't know what that is. I don't know how you characterize that. There you see those numbers. The last 4 seasons in the second half of the year, Pirates, Mets 1-2 in terms of poorest second half record. You know, in the case of both of these teams, that covers multiple managers, and in the case of the Mets, multiple general managers. So is it thinness of talent that costs you as you go through the season?
Well, I think it's absolutely that. I think it's just not, just not deep enough to withstand any kind of serious injuries or poor play.
3-2, and that's line to center field, a base hit for Walker. So Neil Walker with a leadoff single, second hit off Mejia. Let's do an inside pitch on Henry Mejia, brought to you by the Xerox business of baseball. Xerox, ready for real business.
Well, the first one I think is taken care of. I think that he was a little nervous his last start. He looks much better today. I think that Josh Tolley should set up more in the middle of the plate early in the count. Try to really throw to the middle of the plate, let that movement take it to the outside or inside corner, and keep the ball in the ballpark. This Pittsburgh Pirates team loves to hit home runs on the road.
Well, here's Gabby Sanchez, who's well acquainted with playing at Citi Field and has done much damage against the Mets over the years from his days with the Marlins. But Gabby's star has faded drastically over the last season and a half, and the Marlins finally cut the cord with him and traded him to the Pirates at the end of July.
Yeah, he really looked like he was going to be one of the not most important pieces in Miami, but one of the pieces that you would need to have a successful season. He took a lot of pitches. He'd go deep into counts, produce enough RBI.
And he seemed to be the perfect fit in Miami. Hometown kid, went to the University of Miami, got off to a great start in his career, and then all of a sudden, I don't know whether it was the pitchers catching up to him or something else, but Sanchez is just not the player that he was those first couple of seasons.
And for us, as you see the local product Pedro Alvarez on deck, a lot of times our vision is skewed when watching a player who dominates the Mets so much. We just think of him as sometimes a better player than he is the rest of the time.
Well, he's been a better player with the Pirates than he was with the Marlins. As you see those career numbers against the Mets, 342. I mean, you can't even count the number of huge hits that Sanchez has had to beat the Mets over the years. Mejia ahead in the count here, 0-2, with Walker, who has 7 steals on the year, on at first with nobody out, and the curveball in there for a call strike 3. So Sanchez is down looking, and Mejia has his 3rd strikeout.
Well, this is the best breaking ball I've seen Mejia throw in the big leagues. It's a real sharp one. It's tighter. It's not that big curveball, and you can see more of a slider grip as he throws that ball. Kind of lets it go, starts in the middle of the plate, and you can't have a better, smaller, later break on the corner.
And Manny Gonzalez called it a strike, but you didn't have to.
That's right. That's right.
So 1 out and 1 on, and here's Pedro Alvarez. 29 home runs for Alvarez this year, 81 driven in, and he dribbles 1 foul.
You see a Coors Light freeze cam on that grip. See the space underneath the ball in between his thumb and the baseball. You want a nice loose grip so that ball comes out with a good tight spin. Gabby's talking about it, or talking to himself about it.
He didn't think that was a strike. Alvarez went on a huge home run tear in the middle of the season. Former 1st round draft pick who had struggled until this year with the Pirates, really coming of age this season.
Well, you don't see it very often, 29 home runs and in the 7th place in the order, but good sinking fastball there from Mejia.
Well, 169 strikeouts have something to do with that. But Alvarez, who grew up in New York, went to Horace Mann High School and then on to Vanderbilt. Number 2 overall pick in the draft in 2008.
What's Horace Mann, like in Riverdale, or yeah?
Right near Fieldston.
Okay.
Their arch rival. Here's the 1-2, and it's off the corner. 2-2 to Alvarez with the catcher Mike McHenry on deck. Well, Mejia faring much better so far tonight, looking a lot sharper than he did in Milwaukee, but throwing a ton of pitches early in this game. Normally the Pirates not a particularly patient team, but they've made him work so far. Double play ball, if he can get it, smothered by Tejada, and Murphy with a turn, not in time. Well, that ball really took off on Tejada, and he really did well to flag this ball down with a dive.
Well, the ball had some top spin on it, and he fielded it behind him, and see Murph getting out of the way. I thought he was out at first base, but nice play by Tejada. Good quick release from Murph, got out of dodge.
Nice hard slide though by Walker, forcing Murph to get back on his heels, and it was awfully close.
It's awfully close. Look at this take up by Walker. Really like a whip at the legs of Daniel Murphy.
Yeah, and Murphy, you know, still a little awkward in that evasion. You know, a guy who has had problems with getting out of the way of runners each of the last 2 years that cost him knee injuries.
You know what's interesting about this, Gary? See how he's falling backwards to throw? When you fall backwards like that, it's impossible for you to jump. So what you have to do is stand taller. Now I know that you have to take being real brave, but if you stand tall and get rid of it quick, then you can leap up the necessary 2 feet or so to get over the legs of Walker.
The guy I always think of who was never a great second baseman but stood in so tall was Jeff Kent.
Jeff Kent was like that. A real good second baseman who was as cool as a cucumber was the second baseman for the Cardinals. How come I can't think of his? Tommy Herr, who used to stand straight up and down, throw it, and then just a little skip.
Because you can, if you get up in the air, you can let the runner hit you, and then you just kind of fall over him.
You almost have like a kind of a dead body as you fall over. That way you won't be all tense and hurt something.
But what you don't want is to produce those knees for somebody to run into, and that's unfortunately cost Murphy before. Here's McHenry popping one up in foul ground. Totally coming back for a look, but that's in the crowd.
You know, Gary, it's all instincts. The real good second basemen, and I've seen Alomar and others do it, they'll get on that base and they'll fake like they're going backwards, and then they'll come across the base so that they fake the runner on where they're going to be. It takes time, though. Murph's had a good season at second base, I'll tell you that.
Well, Well, certainly he's made tremendous strides, but more than anything else, you want to keep him safe at that position. Mike McHenry, 12 home runs on the year, hitting at .246, and he pops this one up. Any chance for it? Murphy sprinting, Davis back, and it lands just beyond their reach. Murphy showing tremendous hustle as he went sliding into the sidewall here.
Well, the problem was for Ike is he never could get a beat on it because him and the umpire were doing Dancing with the Stars there for about 3 seconds, and he couldn't get past them. You know, Ike, anything close, he's going to make a play on.
You can be asked to flip over the rail.
That's right.
Again, the 2-2. The runner goes, and it's lined past Tejada. Base hit from McHenry. Alvarez will go on to third. And the Pirates have runners at the corners with 2 down with the pitcher coming up. Well, Tejada was able to get to that last sharp ground ball, but not quite to this one.
That ball hit awfully hard. Just beat Ruben Tejada. Interesting that Alvarez running tells me something about the Pirates noticing that Mejia takes an awful long time to deliver the ball to the plate.
So now Kyle McPherson will bid for his first big league hit. He's gone 0 for 2. He was working out of the bullpen briefly for the Pirates, made 7 relief outings before his first start last week.
You were saying that he's a college infielder, though, so he's got to have some talent at the dish.
A late swing foul. Of course, those college infielders who become pitchers, sometimes that's why they become pitchers.
Once they start spitting the ball and they, okay, give me the pitcher's glove. You know what, a lot of times for a shortstop, you're just anticipating where the ball's going to go, throw the glove out, and that one just under Ruben's glove.
McPherson in his minor league career over the course of 5 seasons had just 15 at bats with 2 hits. That's the problem in the minor leagues these days. Unless it's a National League affiliate playing a National League affiliate at AA or AAA, pitchers don't bat at all. And there's a nice looking fastball for a strike, and it's 1-2 to McPherson.
Again, you like to see Mejia down in the strike zone, right on the knees, right on the outside corner.
And with that little cut that was missing in Milwaukee, they worked very hard between starts with Henry to try and rediscover that. But he's 50 pitches deep now and still not through the 2nd inning. Alex Presley, the leadoff hitter, would be next. 1st and 3rd and 2 down. 1-2 coming. And the curveball in there for a call, strike 3. McPherson down looking for strikeouts in the first 2 innings from Mejia. And he holds the Pirates off the board. Still no score.
Scott Hairston will lead off against Kyle McPherson. It'll be Hairston, Duda, and Tejada for the Mets in the second against McPherson. There are your City probables for the rest of the series. Colin McHugh against the former Astro Wandy Rodriguez tomorrow night. Jeremy Hefner gets a start against rookie left-hander Jeff Locke on Wednesday. And then Ari Dickey goes for his 20th win Thursday afternoon, right after Keith shaves his mustache against Kevin Correa. It's like there's a double headline on Thursday. Here's Hairston. By the way, the Marlins just left town, and we were talking over the weekend about Heath Bell and the fact that in addition to the fact he'd had a poor season, he'd thrown just about everybody in the organization under the bus.
Yeah.
Well, today he went on a radio show and said of Ozzie Guillen, it's hard to respect a guy that doesn't tell you the truth or doesn't tell you face to face. So make it one more Marlin thrown under the bus by Heath Bell. Heath would throw himself under the bus, but he probably wouldn't fit.
Sometimes it's hard to respect a guy who's stealing $12 million. I mean, come on. I've heard enough from him. He should have just concentrated on his pitching.
Well, the problem that Heath has run into now is that he does not have a friend in that organization. They would get rid of him in a heartbeat if they could, but it's going to be hard to deal him away with that big contract he's lugging around.
Well, it's not like he's going to change if he goes to some other organization either.
No. Hairston at 266, 19 home runs and a check swing ground ball, and Walker comes in to grab it. Hairston retired one away. I got to tell you, I know that the Mets have had a very rough second half, but you can see the difference in attitude over the weekend between these two ball clubs, the Mets and the Marlins. The Marlins have the look of a team that wants no part of the rest of the season.
You know, I was only here for the Friday night ball game, and it was tough to watch. You know, the dropped pop-ups, the calling for the ball and not going for it. And it's
forgetting how many outs there were, the whole thing.
Not paying attention.
There's Lucas Duda with one out. And it's taken for a strike. Duda had a good series against the Marlins. Had 8 plate appearances, reached base 5 times. Getting a chance to play every day down the stretch of the year as the Mets try and make an assessment of what to do with Lucas next year. That's fought off 1-2. Well, the Pirates have fallen out of it with their stretch over the last 6 weeks, going 12-30. They've fallen 6.5 games back of the second wild card spot. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are opening up more space as they bid to get to the postseason. With Milwaukee losing this afternoon to Washington, St. Louis now has a 3-game lead, and it's getting late.
Well, that's the thing, is that you know, Milwaukee, the Dodgers, teams like that, they really have to win out. So every time they get betrayed by the calendar, Gary, at some point, you know, it just runs out, as we showed in our little pocket calendar. You get to the black hole there.
And the Cardinals are playing tonight in Houston with a chance to stretch that lead to 3.5. Duda lifts it to shallow center, and McCutchen is there. And there are 2 out. The Dodgers are off tonight. Brewers lost today. The Diamondbacks play tonight, but they're too far out, you would think. So St. Louis, if they win tonight, will have a 3.5 game lead. Meanwhile, the Braves' magic number for clinching a postseason berth is down to 1 with Milwaukee's loss today.
Yeah, Hadiel pitched Cliff Lee last night. Fantastic ball game, 2-1.
And it's a long shot, but the Braves still have a chance to catch the Nationals for the league for the division title. Washington won today, so Atlanta's 5 games back, so it's certainly not likely. Washington's magic number is now 5, but it's still possible. Here's Tejada with 2 out and nobody on. But I think what's most important now is that the Braves have definitively put last year's collapse behind them.
Oh, yes, they have. They really showed baseball something with the way they played, and they had to bench Ugla for a few games, and then he's come back and hit better. Their pitching has been outstanding, though, and you can't give enough credit to Medlin, who filled the gap in that rotation. He's been, I guess, I mean, there's perfect, and then there's the less level, and then he's the next level down.
I don't know. It seems pretty perfect to me.
Yeah, right.
10 starts, 8-0, 0.7 ERA in the 10 starts. The only Brave in history who had a stretch like that of 10 starts at any point with 8 wins and an ERA under 1. Warren Spahn.
Oh, well,
Maddox didn't do it. Glavine didn't do it. Smoltz didn't do it. Warren Spahn, Chris Medlin. Two-1 to Tejada, and that's outside. McPherson behind 3-1.
How many games have they won in a row that he has started?
21, I think.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal story.
It is.
You know, you always thought of him as a very useful pitcher, and then he hurt his arm facing the Mets a couple of years ago. But he has burst like a supernova now. And that's wide, and Tejada's on with a 2-out walk. First walk given up by McPherson, who through his minor league career walked very few. In fact, this year in the minor leagues, he walked only 5 batters in 48 innings. That's his 4th big league walk in 17 2/3. So here's Josh Thole, who's begun to swing the bat a little better the last few days. Has a 5-game hitting streak going, up to 244 on the year. Snap throw by McHenry, and Tejada back in standing. Hits it out to left, and Presley puts it away to retire the side. A walk in, 1 left. After 2 at Citi Field, Mets and Bucks, no score.